September 2025. The decree came like thunder. The United States suspends all immigration from Burkina Faso. The words flashed across screens, radios, and phones in an instant. Airports froze. At JFK, Burkinabe students stepping off flights were pulled aside, their visas declared void. Some wept in silence. Others dialed parents back home, whispering they had been stopped at the gate. In Houston, workers in dusty camps were told their permits would expire within weeks. In Washington, lawyers' phones buzzed without pause. Desperate voices pleading, "My papers are gone. What do I do?" Families huddled in apartments stared at televisions as anchors repeated the same line. The freeze is immediate, and no one knew what it meant for tomorrow. The numbers began to circulate. More than 12,000 Burkina-based citizens in America caught in limbo, 5,300 of them students. But the numbers did not capture the fear in dormitories, the suitcases being packed in silence, the mothers clutching children in immigration offices, waiting for answers that never came. In Ouagadougou, the news struck like a hammer. Crowds filled the streets before the U.S. Embassy. They carried cardboard signs scribbled in marker, "We are not criminals, we are students." Radios lit up with callers denouncing the decree as blackmail. In Bamako, Mali, hundreds of students marched to the American embassy shouting, "If you deport them, deport us all." In Niamey, Niger, parliament erupted in fury, opposition leaders accusing Washington of hostage politics, warning the Sahel could not be treated like a colony. The symbolism was unmistakable. An attack on one was an attack on all. President Ibrahim Traoré responded without hesitation. His words broadcast into every home, his voice steady, sharp, unflinching. This is not immigration policy. This is punishment. It is tyranny disguised as law. And it is an insult to Africa. His speech lit a fire. From Niamey to Dakar, from Bamako to Johannesburg, citizens poured into the streets. Miners left their shafts, students raised flags, women banged pots from balconies. The chant spread quickly, "Africa will not bow." In Washington, Burkina-based students staged sit-ins on campus lawns. Their American classmates joined, chanting, "Let them learn." Online, one phrase exploded, "We are not collateral." The White House insisted the freeze was about security, migration control, nothing more. But within days, whispers began. Why Burkina Faso, a country with no mass migration? Why now? Then a leak confirmed suspicions. A European newspaper published a classified memo marked State Department, National Security Council. Its language was blunt. African student networks in the United States are being leveraged to support independent strategies driven by President Traoré and allied Sahel states. Immediate containment required. The memo linked Burkina-based student groups to online campaigns challenging IMF contracts, protesting gold concessions, criticizing Western trade terms. Buried deeper was one chilling line. Visa leverage provides bargaining power over extractive concessions. Priority, gold and oil. The truth was laid bare. The freeze was not about terrorism, not about jobs. It was about resources, leverage, control. Panic mounted. Parents flooded ministries back home. Will my son be deported? Will my daughter's degree be wasted? Traoré spoke again. They want to turn our children into hostages. They want to make our youth collateral for their greed. But Africa's future is not a bargaining chip. His defiance fueled more marches. In Dakar, activists projected his speech onto national monuments. In Bamako, students painted banners. Education is not a crime. In Ghana, protests filled squares. Across the Sahel, a spark became a blaze. Donald Trump fueled the fire further. At a rally in Texas, he thundered, "We are not going to let tiny nations use our country as a base to undermine us. If they want our markets, they will respect our terms." The crowd roared. In Africa, the clip played on repeat, provoking outrage. Callers asked on radio shows, "Are we tiny nations or sovereign ones?" Days later in Ohio, Trump went further. "We won't be lectured by a little president from a little country." His supporters cheered. In Ouagadougou, the phrase appeared on posters overnight. "We are not little, we are free." The freeze meant to isolate Burkina Faso, instead united the region. Revolution Square filled with tens of thousands. Mothers carried signs, "Our children are not bargaining chips." Shopkeepers shuttered stalls. Drums echoed like thunder. The chant carried, "Africa will not bow." In South Africa, students held vigils. In Senegal, crowds marched with torches. In Washington, sit-ins continued. On social media, the hashtag "We are not collateral" spread across languages, across borders. Washington tried divide and rule. Envoys approached African governments quietly promising, "Distance yourselves from Traoré, and your students will be spared." But word leaked. In Ouagadougou cafes, people laughed bitterly. They are not canceling visas. They are auctioning them. Traoré struck back. He welcomed Russian and Chinese delegations in full view of cameras. Moscow offered scholarships, Beijing labor visas, emergency shipments. A Chinese envoy smiled at press microphones. If one door closes, another opens. The optics rattled Western capitals. European analysts admitted on television, Washington's freeze may backfire, accelerating Sahel's shift toward Moscow and Beijing. Inside the presidential palace in Ouagadougou, ministers debated late into the night. Reports warned of food shortages, medicine delays, inflation. Some urged compromise, but Traoré stood firm. They will not stop at visas. Today they demand our silence, tomorrow our gold, the day after our sovereignty. Better we endure hunger than surrender dignity. The words leaked. Posters appeared across the city by dawn. Better hunger than chains. The slogan became a chant, then a song. Civil rights groups in America filed lawsuits. Editorials questioned the morality of punishing students. European newspapers called it self-defeating. But Trump pressed on, declaring, if Traoré thinks he can defy the United States, his people will pay until he learns respect. The word spread across Africa as proof of contempt. In Bamako, students turned Revolution Square into an open classroom, chalking banners with "Knowledge is freedom." In Niamey, farmers donated grain to families who lost remittances. In Dar es Salaam, radio hosts declared, "This is not Burkina Faso's fight alone. This is Africa's dignity on trial." By the final days of September, the freeze remained. Visas suspended, shipments stalled, students stranded, workers in limbo. On paper, Washington's pressure stood firm, but in truth, everything had shifted. Silence was gone. Across the continent, voices once hesitant spoke boldly. From Dakar to Dar, from Niamey to Johannesburg, the chant grew, "Africa will not bow." Traoré returned once more to Revolution Square. The sun burned hot. Flags waved, drums pounded, chants shook the ground. His voice rose over the city, carried by radios and live streams into homes across the continent. They can suspend visas. They can delay ships. They can try to make us afraid, but they cannot cancel our dignity. They cannot silence a continent that has found its voice. We did not ask for permission to exist. We were born free, and free we will remain, no matter the cost. The crowd erupted. Fists rose. Drums rolled like thunder. The chant carried far beyond the square. Africa will not bow. Africa will rise. September ended without resolution. Students remained in limbo. Families waited for news. Shipments crawled through ports. Yet the greatest truth was already written. What began as a visa decree had become a continental awakening. A small nation targeted as leverage had become a symbol of sovereignty, and the silence of Africa was broken. Silence once broken would never return, never.